Hey everyone, Jacob Saenz with bestrealtorforyou.com, and today let's talk about finding a place to lease. Now, whether you're relocating long distance or you're just relocating locally, securing a lease can sometimes be extremely challenging. So let's go over a couple things that will help you in your search and make it more effective and a lot easier through the process. First tip. When should you start looking? I always encourage my clients that are on a timeline of an expiring lease or have a very solid needed move-in date to begin their search at least a month and a half out. This allows you to see what's on the market and what it's doing before you enter it, but also gives you the opportunity to make sure that the perfect lease doesn't slip through your fingers. You don't know how many times I had a client miss out on the perfect lease because they entered the market a week too late. So this way, if you find the perfect lease, you can see if you can negotiate a further move-in date, or at worst, you may want to pay for a few weeks earlier, and that way, at least you secure the home that you want. Now, most clients are safest searching no later than a month out. Tip 2. Understand that doing it on your own without a dedicated realtor will make your process a lot harder than necessary. So make sure that you ask for some help. Those first few calls you make on your own, reaching out to realtors on their lease listings, will give you the opportunity to ask for some guidance. Remember that the realtor you're speaking with is more than happy to help you find another home that works for you if the one they're representing does not. So they'll be able to send you all the current listings that fit your search, but more importantly, ask them to use the auto email alert platform on the MLS. This platform will send you any new listings that come on the market through an email. So the second you spot another listing of interest, you can contact your realtor and have them do some legwork on their own and get that information and get that showing set up for you. This saves you a ton of time because not only do you no longer have to spend every day looking through different platforms searching for new listings, but you also have someone that'll make the calls and make sure that your particular situation qualifies for the listing you're interested in. This saves you from constantly regurgitating the same story over and over, and you'll let someone else do that for you. That's the job of a realtor, having one point of contact that can handle all the facets of finding you a lease. Having that is absolutely priceless. Now, tip 3. Have an idea of what your credit score is. Some of us have access to a credit score through our app, through our banking app. Some banks have that available now. If you don't, and you don't have any idea what your credit is, you may just want to be as honest as possible about what you do know about your credit situation. Remember, there is no hiding credit. Securing a lease will require an application that will take a look into your credit and background. So be open with what you do know. This will help you decide on what properties you might want to pass on. If a property is requiring a 700 plus credit score, and you know for a fact that you don't have a score that high, it'll save you some time and money to move on. That being said, another important note is that some people may have a low credit score, but sometimes this is due to medical or school bills or a divorce. Many landlords take a further look, or they look at the whole picture when weighing out whether to accept you with that lower credit score. It might be lower than what they originally wanted, but your particular situation, they may be willing to take the bet on you. So don't count yourself out just because your score is a little bit lower than what you would like it to be. Most leases on average are looking for 650 or higher, but I've had many clients that have secured leases with a lower score because we took the time to explain the situation before doing the application. And once the credit was looked into, the landlord decided to accept. Things that can help a lower credit score can be a letter of recommendation from the previous landlord and or sometimes even showing that you have a healthy amount in savings. Because sometimes someone with a low credit score may have a low credit score, but has the ability to pay months in advance on a lease. This may be 2 or 3 months and sometimes even more. In this situation, I would offer to show the landlord a bank statement to prove that the client's well-funded to handle that lease. And if this isn't enough for the landlord, sometimes we'll offer to pay 2 or 3 months up front. This minimizes the risk to the landlord, and if the tenant stops paying the rent, the landlord's paid up front and won't lose any income before evicting the tenant, But it is important to tell you here that every state has its own eviction laws. So if you're attempting a lease in a state with poor protection for the landlord, this may not be enough to have the landlord feel comfortable to accept you. In a state where the eviction laws are landlord friendly, which gives them the right to evict a tenant within 30 days, this strategy will almost always work. Tip 4. It's always easier to lease a place without pets. We all know this, but yet the fact is many people are moving with their pet or pets, and getting a pet accepted can become a huge challenge when searching for those more desirable leases. But there are things you can do to overcome the hurdle. If you have a small dog, you're in luck because it's almost always likely you can get a landlord to make an exception for your pet. A small lap dog is less likely to cause damage, and the danger of it mauling someone is pretty low. So don't necessarily rule out looking at listings that say no pets. If you spot a lease that you like, have your realtor call and see if an exception can be made. I usually provide the landlord with a picture of the dog, the breed type, and the age of the animal. And I say the dog, whether it's a dog, it's a cat, whatever it might be, I provide a picture of that animal, the breed, and the age of the animal. I'll find out if the landlord's open-minded to possibly making that exception anyway, before I go take the client to go look at that home. You have a very high chance of getting that exception if you have a higher credit score above 700 and a healthy monthly income. If you check all the other boxes off like good credit, good income, ready to move in quickly, it's really hard to pass on that client over a small dog. If you're looking to have an exception made but have lower credit, this can be a bit harder. We can go back to risk reduction in the eyes of the landlord. Having a small dog is a good starter, but maybe not enough when having a lower credit score. So we might offer not only the standard pet fee, which is usually about $500, but also possibly eliminate more risk by offering $50 more in monthly rent to cover any possible damages the pet may incur. If this isn't enough, you may want to offer a higher deposit. Let's say the deposit is $1,500. You may offer to pay $2,000 or even $2,500 in a deposit, but it is very important to note that you have it spelled out in the lease that this is a, quote, refundable deposit. This simply eliminates the landlord's risk further by having an extra amount of cash to use in the case if the animal were to cause expensive damage. For those of you with mid to larger dogs, this becomes more of a challenge with making exceptions. You may want to try the strategies we just went through for your larger animal, but it will be a harder hill to climb. The same will be said about cats. Cats are a harder pet to get exceptions for. Many landlords don't want the risk of having the animal spraying in the home. But in the end, everything is negotiable. The key is, can you eliminate enough risk off the landlord's shoulders to have them make a possible exception for your pet or pets? Tip 5. If you're out of state, make sure to utilize live video tours. Technology today allows us to have live video chats no matter where we are. So utilize it. Don't be afraid to ask your realtor to send you on a showing of a lease while on a video platform, whether it's FaceTime, Zoom, or WhatsApp. These are just some options to use. Have your realtor talk you through what they feel and smell while walking you around the property, giving you as much description as possible. I've done this countless times for clients, and it has always been a positive outcome. This saves you the need to fly or drive in to look at leases, in the end saving you a lot of time and money. Tip 6, application fees. Remember that each lease will require an application, and each application will have its own costs, anywhere from $25 to $50 on an applicant. Typically, you'll need to have all adults that will be living in the home required to fill out an application. So if there's a mom and dad in the home, both will have to apply. Yes, even if one is not making money or not planning on being in the lease, many times I have a client that has outstanding credit and income, and they're just completely baffled as to why both adults need to apply when they're such a strong candidate alone. And I simply explain to them that it is almost always required because the landlord needs to know who is living in their home. So this being said, you can imagine how expensive it is if you keep applying to multiple leases. I advise my clients that the first lease we apply for will provide us the application information needed for any future apps. If we don't get approved through the first application, I advise my clients to get the credit and background information that was pulled. Because remember, this is your info. You paid for it to be pulled. You have every right to obtain it. Your realtor can help you get this information, and you can use it to get pre-approved on future applications. The next lease you're interested in, you can simply send them your information and have your realtor explain that you're willing to apply again through their system to verify the information that you currently have, but that you'd like to be pre-approved pending that the information you have is valid and verified. Most times it will never ask you for another application. They'll typically make their decision with the info provided, granted it's not too old. Tip 7. Stick with one realtor. Do not get caught up working with multiple realtors. Not only are you wasting their time, but you're also wasting your own. You're making their jobs and yours harder to do. A good realtor has a sense when they're not completely connected with a client, and when they believe that the client has not been sold on using them exclusively. It's important to understand that helping people secure a lease is not easy and also does not pay well. This is the reason you'll come across some realtors that even refuse to help anyone with leases. Most realtors are in the business because they have a passion to help. So helping people secure a lease is usually more an emotionally rewarding experience than it is financially. That being said, a good realtor knows how to manage his or her most valuable asset, which is time. If they don't feel you've connected with them to exclusively work with only them, they won't put the dedicated time in for you. You won't really have them doing the job they could be doing for you. Tip 8. Don't waste time. Leases can go quick. Keep in mind that you have other competition for that same lease out there, and it can be a race. I'm not saying not to do your due diligence on the property, but I am saying that you do so with an awareness that others are also on the hunt. I recently had a client that toured a home without his wife. He loved the home and knew his wife would too, but unfortunately the weekend was coming up. Mardi Gras was on Tuesday, so she'll probably come take a look at the property on Thursday or Friday. Well, I got a text from him on Thursday asking if we could see the property on Friday with her. I had to tell him that the property already had someone signing the lease on Friday. It was a done deal. Have a sense of urgency when going through the process. You don't want to lose out on a great lease because you were out a day late. Tip 9. Utilize Zillow for those for lease by owners. Make sure to keep an eye on Zillow for these listings, and remember that you have to use a special tab to see them. There's 2 tabs. One's an agent listings tab, and the other tab is, quote, other listings. So make sure you click on the other listings tab. Obviously, your realtor will not be aware of these because they're not going to be listed on the MLS. The owners that are renting on Zillow will not usually be looking to work with realtors, so you have to be willing to commit to the lease alone without any guidance from a realtor. I always encourage my clients to keep an eye on these properties, especially when the market has less leases available. I just warn them to fully understand what it is they're signing. Most of the time, these transactions are pretty straightforward and work out well for the tenants. Well, I hope this helps you on your search for your new lease and makes your search easier and smoother. Good luck on the move. Enjoy your new adventures in your new area. And if you have any other questions, don't be afraid to shoot me a comment down below. I'll be happy to help any way I can. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button so others can find this helpful, useful information to make that move. And also make sure to subscribe for more helpful real estate information in the future. Till next time, have success in everything that you do. And remember to encourage and help those that help others.